You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All right, and welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined, as always, by your co-hosts, Kevin and Alex. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing good. So I am taking this show on the road this week, as everyone can probably tell, but it's Super Bowl week, so no excuses, right? We're here to play like champions and hopefully win everyone a little bit of money during the big game.
I finally had FOMO. It wasn't like finally. I started seeing stuff from opening night today. I avoided it all last night. I wasn't going to watch anything. But man, do I wish I was there. Super Bowl week is so much fun. I've been lucky enough that I've gotten to take part in 2 Super Bowl weeks. Just with it being in Vegas, like I love Vegas. With it being the Super Bowl, like I know tonight is Tuesday night. Traditionally, that's the media party night, and I can only imagine what that media party is like in Las Vegas. It was stellar in New Orleans 10 years ago. It was awesome in Minneapolis at the Mall of America 6 years ago, I guess that was. But it is so much fun to do that. And so I started seeing stuff from opening night last night, and I got a little jealous of everybody that's there. So I'm happy for everybody that gets to go and experience it. I wish I was one of them to go there. Never mind the game itself. Like the game, I think is going to be fantastic, but the week leading up to it is so much fun.
I like it. It'll be interesting to see how this one kind of plays out, right? Like, and you've got 2 teams that are no strangers to this week and kind of all the fanfare and the hoopla that leads up to it, right? And that's some of the things that we've seen in the past. Teams that, it's a novel experience, younger teams, guys that teams that don't have guys that have been there before. It can affect the outcome there a little bit. But this is 2 organizations that were here not even that long ago.
4 years ago against each other, yeah.
Right. And the Chiefs, 2 years in a row back there. So it'll be very interesting to see how this one plays out.
I'll tell you one of the things that, one of the little stories that you pick up from being there. When the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they actually would have their practice. This is a story that I was told. I guess I never verified it, but they would have their practice. And then, the Super Bowl halftime's longer. Hell, halftime during a regular season game is barely enough time to catch your breath. This is 15 minutes, right? Like, and it's a hard 15 from basically the time that they start that clock. You got 15 minutes, and then we're back to kicking the ball off again. But in the Super Bowl, it's much longer, right? Because you got the halftime performance. You got to give time for everybody to get wheeled in and wheeled out of there, warm-ups again. What the Eagles did was they would have their practice, and then they would just sit around for 35 minutes because that's the length of halftime. And then it was right back into, hey, let's go. And like that, obviously it worked out for them. They won that year. But like it's little details like that you don't like that everybody has to be cognizant of. This is not a normal football game. Everybody says, oh, you tee it up and it's just like any other game. No, this is not just like any other game. This is the biggest game of these players' lives up to this point. And it could be the biggest game that they ever play in. So like, it's not just another game, as much as you want to try to minimize it because that helps you perform. It's not. It is the most watched sporting event in the world. It is a spectacle. No other game do you have a week leading up to it with media, obligations and all of these other things. So it's not just any other game.
Yeah. Kind of crazy to think about it, kind of all of that. There was also some, kind of shift gears here a little bit. There was also some craziness that happened along the coaching fronts as well. We'll kind of come back to a lot of our picks for the big game here, as well as get into our you know, fantasy game that we're playing there, but there are now no longer any head coaching jobs open, and all head coach jobs are filled. Any thoughts on this?
It's about time.
Yeah.
Well, I think a couple of these were slightly surprising. But nevertheless, here we are, and the jobs are filled. So Bill Belichick kind of got ghosted, right? He is not going to be a head coach in the NFL this next season. We'll see what booth he finds himself in to be able to do games here for this upcoming season, and then whether he or not he comes back. Dan Quinn went from not really being talked about to all of a sudden he went in division and took a couple assistant coaches with him from Dallas over to the Washington Commanders. So, that'll be interesting. I think that's a bigger loss for the Cowboys than I think what people are talking about here at the moment. But I do think that that'll be kind of an underwriting storyline for the Dallas defense coming up in this 2024 season. So that one's definitely interesting. Belichick's son, right, did get a coaching gig, which good for him. He's going to Seattle, if I remember correctly. But I think the head scratcher of all this was the Green Bay Packers and their new coordinator on the defensive side of the ball coming from Bowling Green. Do you guys know where Bowling Green is located?
I
Ohio?
do. Ohio.
Yes,
they got
regionally.
They got a good, or I shouldn't say a good. They have a hockey team.
So that one's a little interesting. So we'll see how that plays out. Bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how this one plays out. Was kind of the thing that ran through my head.
I think the biggest surprise here again, and man, if you've heard this show basically since the beginning, Eric Bieniemy. He must be the world's worst head coach interviewer or something. Like, I just don't understand. But hard to imagine he won't be back with Andy Reid and the Chiefs staff next year, right?
That's where I'd go. I mean,
it's hard to think that he wouldn't be.
Reid's getting closer to retirement, right? So if you're Bieniemy, like, hey, let's go. Continue to build this rapport with Patrick Mahomes. 2 years left in him. You try and get an idea for that, and you feel like I have the inside track when you leave. And I mean, I think if you're Kansas City and you have Spagnuolo and Bieniemy, at least gives you two viable options in-house to be able to kind of keep this ship rolling with Patrick Mahomes at the helm.
And Matt Nagy, right? No, sorry.
Him
not
too.
Yeah. And Matt Nagy, who is also head coach. Like, there's plenty of brilliant offensive minds that will be available, I think, to the Chiefs. But in any effect, shocking that he didn't get that job in Washington. And it'll be interesting to see where he ends up.
Right. Like, and we mentioned I can potentially see the whole, potentially, differences of opinions, personalities, all of that kind of stuff as far as, new head coach coming in and he may have had his guy already and previously, but I don't understand the move from Bieniemy to Cliff Kingsbury. Like, that one still boggles my mind. And I saw some stuff come out about Patrick Mahomes saying that Kingsbury gets the most out of his guys and this, that, and the other, and very much that almost coach speak, player speak type of thing. But I get that that's your college head coach, but that was your former offensive coordinator who you've seen the most success in your career when he was at the helm calling the plays there, right? Like, both the Patrick Mahomes' 5,000 plus yard seasons passing have come under Bieniemy. MVPs have come under Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator there. Like, Sam Howell actually looked, had flashes throughout the season under that as well. The Chiefs without Bieniemy looked human on the offensive side of the ball for the first time in really Patrick Mahomes' career when he was there. So there was a lot of kind of things at play there, and that also kind of leads me to almost think like, is this move a move that they're trying to play a little bit more towards the draft side of things, and is this a move to try and if they can move up to the number one pick, make sure that they get their guy kind of thing, and he doesn't go back to college has been speculated by even himself and his camp for multiple times there. So there was a lot of things at play there that I was just kind of like, this just doesn't make much sense throughout this, unless you kind of look back at some of the, maybe there's some other jockeying of position here as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And I think I'm generally not a Mahomes apologist, but I think in this situation, you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't, right? Like
right.
Either you endorse the guy who and talk about the positives and say, yes, these are the things that he does well, blah, 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 blah. And, in retrospect, make it seem like you're not endorsing or not supporting the enemy, or you take the enemy stance like, I can't believe this guy is not getting the opportunity. These guys missed out, blah, blah, blah. And you're kind of dumping on Cliff Kingsbury, who, did a lot for you and helped with your development and your ability to compile the statistics and put you in the right plays that made you, this quarterback that the Chiefs wanted to kind of come up and grab kind of out of nowhere, not necessarily out of nowhere, but a little bit higher than where people thought Mahomes might go in the draft, right? And so it's kind of one of those weird, yes, it's a business decision, right? And it is a lot of coach speak, but I don't really know what we expect the guy to say at that point. Like,
right.
No matter what he does, he's not endorsing or supporting the other guy, and clearly he has ties to both.
Right.
So you're a little handcuffed, right? Like those questions are tough because it always seems like, well, I'm throwing shade at the guy I'm not talking about. Well, not necessarily. If the question's about Kingsbury, then yeah, you're going to talk about Kingsbury. You don't want to, overtip the apple cart unnecessarily and throw shade at Kingsbury when the question was about him, just
right.
to get your stance made about the enemy, right? Like that, it is one of those setup questions that, reporters toss out as, quote unquote softballs, and then berate him for any answer he throws out because there's no 100% right answer.
Facts. Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's very interesting that the Commanders go that route when Kingsbury has throughout his career had incredibly gifted quarterbacks, right? Is kind of that, that quarterback whisperer, so to speak, in a lot of those scenarios. And like winning and success hasn't really followed suit on a lot of that throughout.
He doesn't need
right?
to win. He just needs to tap into Sam Howell being a gamer, right? I mean, through 14 weeks, Sam Howell was the QB5 in fantasy, right? I mean, Sam Howell was one of those quarterbacks who unsuspectingly carried you to the playoffs. Now, it really sputtered down the stretch, and part of it was schedule. We talked about that on this show quite often, right? Like if you could get out from Sam Howell, his playoff schedule kind of sucks. Like don't count on him in the playoffs, and that came to fruition. But to get you there, I mean, the guy that went undrafted basically in single quarterback formats was the QB5. Like there's enough talent there that Kingsbury should be able to tap into some of that. And really what they need to do is find ways to make Terry McLaurin everything that he was made out to be when he came out in the draft, right, from Ohio State, and to use, Jahan Dotson, who another receiver who got a lot of fanfare, right? There are a lot of guys, not necessarily in the mainstream, because I wouldn't consider us that at all, but many of our friends, right? Many of the shows that we, tune into, support, talk about these, and we talk with these guys on different things. There are a lot of lovers of Jahan Dotson out there, and he has done anything but pan out at this moment. So really, you're trying to utilize weapons that you have, and see what's going on, because your defense also needs to be rebuilt, because that's been in shambles the last 2 seasons. Yes, you need ideally another dynamic playmaker, because Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, Daimi Brown aren't necessarily cutting it. And then figure out what you're doing at running back. Is Brian Robinson the answer? Like, is he just going to be your thumper and that is what it is? Or are you going to pivot and make a play for one of the seemingly 30 different running backs that are on the free agent market that all have pretty good name value attached to it, but they're a little bit long in the tooth?
Right. Well, and sitting at number 2 overall, I can't imagine that they aren't going quarterback with that pick with this draft, with this QB draft class either. So
yeah. So are you? Are you essentially replacing one Tar Heel quarterback with another?
right. Are you giving up the farm to try and move up to number 1?
Yeah,
Like,
I sure wouldn't. I sure wouldn't.
Is it
Like,
worth it too?
to me, no. Right? If I'm sitting here and what I've done, like, if Caleb Williams is going 1, then I'm perfectly happy with Drake May being my guy at number 2. Like, I am very comfortable with that. If May goes number 1 overall, right, tests off the charts, and he kind of gets that late fanfare, kind of like the year Baker went number 1 overall, right? We weren't really talking about Baker being the number 1 overall quarterback until the last 24 hours when we got some news. I'm like, you know what, this has a chance, right? Like, Baker has a real possibility about being number 1, and sure enough, that's where Cleveland took him. So I think if you're sitting at 2, for me, I'd be more than happy. You know what? It's one of these 2 guys. This is it. Like, let's start looking at the second round. Like, what do we think is going to be coming back? What falls out of the first? Like, who are all these guys that we need to bring in and really talk to? Because quarterback, we know it's A or B, and no matter who they pick, this is the guy we wanted all along, right? Like that you want to talk about coach speak. Nope, we got our guy. He was number 1 on our draft board. He was the guy we wanted all along. Well, of course he was number 1 on your draft board, because whoever was up there and got drafted first, you had to cross off the list. So there's a new number 1. Like, so that is what it is. But they got to start somewhere, right? I mean, and being at number 2, and with the way that the quarterback position is valued so highly in the NFL, you know what? You didn't pay anything to get Sam Howell. Right? Like, it really was not an overall investment that you feel like you're losing out on. This is the investment, but this is what any struggling franchise needs to try and right the ship. Like, you need a quarterback, you need a head coach who understands said quarterback, and you need to build the defense around him to try and be competitive while he's on his rookie contract. So then you can get weapons when you have to repay him and, have him show his worth. Like, it's been the blueprint for success for almost a decade now, right, of how this works for a lot of these teams. Because outside of the Rams, the Chiefs last year. So the last 2 years, we've had different instances of high-paying quarterbacks winning the Super Bowl. But up until then, like, it was very much like low cap number quarterback, team built around him. Here's the keys to success. And Stafford, Mahomes in back-to-back years kind of broke that mold a little bit with them being, 18, 19, 20+% of their team's salary cap.
Well, and even when Stafford and the Rams won it, the salary cap hit wise, like, that was that year, like, he actually had a lower cap hit than that, and it was the next year that it kind of ballooned up and went from there. So Mahomes was the highest, was the quarterback that had the highest cap hit last year since the salary cap was implemented, and Steve Young did it in the very first year of the cap. Like, everybody else had not gone above, like, Tom Brady was the only other guy that had gotten up to like 12.67% of a cap hit.
And his salary was always so funny money, right? Brady was always really good about deferring money, taking it here, taking it there. Like, I'm being a team guy. And he never came out and said that, but that was the spin on him. Like, don't kid yourself. Tom Brady got his money.
Yeah. Like, how many times did he restructure and do all that stuff?
Yes, and convert this money and everything. He got his at New England and then again at Tampa Bay. Like, he absolutely got his.
Right. So it'll be good. Real quick correction note on that. Jeff Hafley, the coordinator going to Green Bay, actually coming out of Boston College on his last trip there. Was the head coach at Boston College before moving on to the Packers.
Well, okay, so it's funny that you would say that. 'Cause that's what I thought I had heard.
Yeah, my apologies. I had Green Bay. I had Bowling Green stuck in my head.
But he had a quote, and I can't remember where I saw it from, but he had a quote that said that college sports has become too much about NIL, and he wanted to go to a place where he could just coach football again, and that's in the NFL. Because being was he the head coach at BC?
Yes,
he was.
He was the head coach.
He felt that he was spending too much time trying to deal with NIL stuff and not enough time coaching football. That he felt the need to get out of the college game. So I wonder if that's going to be something that, like, hey, maybe this is this works to the NFL's favor, right? Like, you're not going to lose good coaches back to college because it's not coaching football anymore, right? It's everything else that you have to be when you're a college head coach. I do think that you're able to focus more on being a football coach in the NFL than you would in college.
Yeah, your bandwidth in college right now is unbelievably massive, right? What you have to keep your arms around and touch.
In terms of roster size, right? Like a roster
size, scholarships, incoming class, what that means, this recruit, that recruit, like, don't pay attention to that noise. You're our guy. Oh, by the way, hey, you over here, we need to pay you $1 million.
Yeah, here's what our NIL collective looks like. Here's what we can do for you.
Yeah, it doesn't look good this year, but the sponsors have told me they're doing this for you. Like, or boosters. I shouldn't say sponsors.
Yeah, boosters. Not sponsors. They're boosters.
Whatever. But yeah, I mean, being not an easy job, right? Like, you are no longer just a head coach. Like, you're not a CEO, CFO, and all things incorporated for this university for their mainstream of funding for the rest of the athletic department.
Yeah. It's a big task. It's monumental.
So it'll be interesting to see too if we see more, because not often you see a head coach jump from being a head coach at college level, and in Boston College, while not necessarily one of your premier programs, still a big time program,
big enough program,
right. That to see them jump to a coordinator spot and giving up the the head coach type of job, like, you don't typically see that one happen all that often.
Work-life balance, like, honey, I'm going to move you from Boston College to Green Bay, but you're actually going to see me at least once a week now.
Yeah, right. You're going to see me a little bit more.
Like,
right.
Some wives may not like that. I mean, whatever. His apparently might.
So, yeah, very interesting. Well, any other thoughts here on the coaching carousel before we start jumping back into the some big game props here?
I'll throw one last thing out there. I now that these jobs are all spoken for, I didn't think that there would be this many jobs open. Obviously, you don't anticipate a divorce of Bill Belichick and the Patriots. You don't anticipate Pete Carroll. Like, you knew it was coming, but you didn't anticipate it would be this year, right? Or when it would be. I didn't think that there would be this many openings this cycle. And I hope that there aren't this many openings again next year, because otherwise,
hell yeah, there's gonna be 8 new openings next year. You can, like, freaking clockwork, man. You can guarantee it.
It's just what are we doing at that point? But yeah,
I think you can name the coaches now.
You might be able to,
like, Jets, Cowboys, Jaguars, Broncos, and then, so there's half of them right there. And then
you can throw in
Steelers don't get a deal with Tomlin worked out. You got
I'll give you Giants.
I'll give you Eagles. Right? If they don't perform up to standard, right? Like, they just turned over their entire coaching staff outside of the head coach. Like,
yeah. So if the Eagles fall apart again, Philadelphia.
Man, could you imagine that? The NFC East would have, if that came to fruition, if the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Eagles, which like I know the Giants may be a long shot, they seem to be pretty content with what they have there, but like they also need to win. There was expectations that they definitely did not meet this last season. So if all three of those, then the Commanders head coach Dan Quinn would be the longest tenured in that league, in that division, if it goes to fruition like that.
Well, and Carolina, who knows? Like that's a wild card every year.
With Tepper, yeah.
Like that could be one of those that we see a head coach change over yet again. The Texans seemingly have their right.
Yeah, New Orleans.
Yeah. The Texans seemingly finally have their guy there, right? Like that was one that you could almost bank on every year that they were going to turn over a coach.
Yeah, they did well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think
he's at least bought himself some grace.
Yeah. So you throw a surprise in on top of that, like, I mean, there you go. I mean, if the Giants crap the bed again, or not the Giants, the Vikings. If the Vikings crap the bed again, are they looking for a head coach?
If the Bears decide to move in a different direction.
Yeah, that could be another one too. Like there's
crazy. It's crazy to think about.
So, right? But yeah, I'm call it now 8.
Yeah, because you think about it, there's maybe a handful of franchises that actually stick through and
do you think any of these guys that just got hired don't make it through the year? Because we saw that happen this year, right? We saw that happen. McDaniels didn't last the season in Vegas. Do you think any of these guys that just got hired in this coaching cycle don't make it this season?
I think the Raiders and Carolina would be the two most volatile.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Right, just based off of how the ownership group acts as far as new coaches. I think the rest are completely safe. Like, I don't see the Seahawks making a knee-jerk reaction if they get off to a slow start. Right. The Falcons won't. Like, they had every opportunity to fire Arthur Smith, and because that division's kind of ho-hum, floating around 500 means you're in playoff contention. So I think you're safe in Atlanta. The Chargers will wait. I mean,
they didn't just go.
Yeah, they'll give patience, right, to Harbaugh. They didn't just do all that to say no to Harbaugh after a year. He'll be there for at least 3. So I think Raiders and Panthers are the two that
I think the Commanders you could also throw in there too.
The most uneasy. I don't think they're getting rid of Quinn that fast.
Maybe not, but
Quinn at least a full year plus. I don't think they're going to pull the trigger. There's too much turmoil in the front office in general for them to be making knee-jerk reactions on the field. Right. And they were terrible, and they let Ron Rivera be terrible for the last 2 or 3 years without any real repercussion.
But change of ownership there, right, from Rivera's into this season, and I don't know. It seems like Dan Quinn wasn't necessarily the first or maybe even second or third choice, and so if one of those names becomes available, the guy that they really wanted type of thing again, like I don't know
that they had to have said something to lure him away because Dan Quinn was happy seemingly, right? He was content in Dallas, and maybe he felt like McCarthy needed to go and that needed to be his gig. So now he's going to leave to show everybody. Like there could be some of that, but Dan Quinn, I never got the impression that Dan Quinn was looking for a way out. Like it was everyone else tossing his name in the hat. It was not necessarily him going, yes, I want to be an NFL head coach again. It was he always said, I like this side of the ball. I like doing what I'm doing. I like this group of guys. So for Washington to sour that quickly after convincing him to leave a situation that it was honestly a really cush job. Like he was the heir apparent when McCarthy was finally done to let Dan Quinn step up and be the head coach of the Cowboys. At least in my opinion, they had to have promised him something that made him feel like it was okay to take that step out and go, okay, I can go to Washington in the division and be safe at least for, 24 months.
No, fair enough. I could see that too, right?
Which is crazy, right? Like, have you
Yes.
ever taken a job thinking, God, I hope I still have this job in a year? Like,
In a year. I hope I just make it through the year.
And yeah, the Vegas one, I think you guys are right there. Like, there's certainly the fact that it kind of took as long as it did for them to be like, yeah, Pierce is our guy after you're coming in and really galvanizing the locker room. The players very much coming out with several of the defensive players and several of their bigger names coming through and saying that, yeah, this is our guy, and if he's not there, I want out. I want to trade. Yeah, that was kind of interesting.
and I think part of this in general is all these head coaches, not Carolina, but most likely Atlanta, but Washington, Vegas, they're all going to be tied to new quarterbacks too, right? And that's kind of your marriage, right? New coach, new quarterback. You do give them a couple years in most cases to try and work that out,
right.
and so maybe that does buy Pierce a little bit of time. I hope it does. For not liking the Raiders, I was impressed with what he did, right? Like,
Yes.
taking my fandom out of it and just looking at it, like, he did a really good job of galvanizing that team in what was turning into a really dark cloud as McDaniels 2.0 swept across the nation.
Right. I mean, and the Raiders gave him a whole season and a half there. So, McDaniels, that is. So, no, it'd be interesting. I was a little surprised the Raiders bringing in Luke Getsy to be the offensive coordinator on what'll seemingly be probably a new quarterback there as well. And especially with the news that Eric Bieniemy was out there again, right? Like, you get to bring a guy in that knows a lot of the wrinkles of the Chiefs in division, all of that kind of stuff. And
Was that announced after the Quinn job with bringing? I thought they announced that before the Commanders took Dan Quinn on.
Maybe. I don't know. It was one of those, like, it was kind of bang bang there where it seemed like the Kingsbury withdrew from the Raiders to immediately go to the Commanders type of thing. And then the Raiders, and I could be wrong about the timelines there, but it was very much, yeah, to use an overused sports analogy, it was very much of a bang bang type of news cycle there.
Yeah.
So, all righty. Well, any other thoughts here? Should we head over into some of the big game props that?
We have to do our playoff scoring.
Or we can go playoff scoring too.
No, let's do our playoff game eliminator.
All right, Alex. Why don't you go ahead and lead the way? We'll give you the moment of glory here.
Well, you're gonna win this whole stupid thing. It's a dumb game in the first place. So, for those who haven't been playing along with us, we had to pick a player from the available player pool each week of the playoffs. You could use that player once, and then you could not use that player again. So we have made it all the way now to the Super Bowl, and the standings are as follows after a slow start for Kevin and Alex. Kevin has surpassed me into second place with 222.14 points. I am in third place with 211 points. Derek is going to win because he's got 262 points, and we all have essentially the same players to pick from when we're going here. So let's go through the rosters. At quarterback, I still have Patrick Mahomes available, so I am going to take Patrick Mahomes.
Fair enough. I don't have Patrick Mahomes available, so I'm going to take Brock Purdy, and go with the anti-hero type of play here.
I'm in the boat with Alex. So I had Mahomes available after using Purdy last week. So I'm going with your Super Bowl MVP.
A call right there. That's a teaser to later in the show. I won't make us all go through this one because at running back, we all have CMC available and we all took CMC. So we'll move along to wide receiver. I am going to go with Rashee Rice.
Fair enough. I am going to take one Mr. Brandon Ayuk to to rock and roll at the wide receiver position.
I like that pick. Unfortunately, he was not available to me, so I went with Rashee Rice as well. So through 3 positions, Alex, your roster and your roster and my roster are identical.
And the only way it's going to change here is because you guys took Travis Kelce earlier. What was that? The wild card round, I think, or the divisional round.
2 touchdowns. That's what I remember.
And he had a great game for you. He did. I took George Kittle last week, so I have Kelce available to me. That's who I'm taking as my tight end.
I'm going to take a karma play and go George Kittle. So.
Co-sign on the Kittle.
And then in our flex spot, just like we were with the running back, we've all taken Deebo Samuel. So Derek is going to win unless Travis Kelce goes bananas and Rashee Rice goes crazy. But yeah, it's basically just if Travis Kelce goes bananas, that's the only way that I have a shot. The only way that Kevin has a shot is if it's Mahomes and Rashee Rice that go bonkers.
So is it over now?
It's the fat lady's tuning up. She may not be singing just yet, Derek, but she's definitely warming up in the background. She's in her trailer.
How many points would you like to get from let's say from like your Brock Purdy? How many would you like to see? Maybe like 20, 21, 22?
Yeah, sure. You know what? I'm pretty sure that if I get just even 15 out of Purdy, I'll be feeling really pretty good with how the rest of this thing's going to shape up, just based on how the rest of these rosters are going to play out there.
It really just depends on which version we're going to see, right?
Right. Although, do you know how hard it was to continually keep trying to find Taylor Swift references when I was going through and picking?
Kevin, did you pick up on any of those? He kept making Taylor Swift references while he was going down there. Did you get any of those?
No, I do not. That is not. That's not my cup of tea. I appreciate what she does and realize that she's a very talented artist, but I couldn't name a Taylor Swift song for you if you offered me $1 billion. Like,
it's just gonna need to get
ever get back together. I think is the only Taylor Swift song that I could name, and I don't even think I'm calling the title right.
Her reputation precedes her.
See, had you let me talk on the CMC, I had bad blood all lined up right there. So
there you go.
You know,
kudos to you for doing the research, Derek.
I was trying.
That's just so far outside of my wheelhouse.
My research is every time I get in the car with my wife. It is Taylor Swift all the time. All right, let's move.
It's nice that you let your wife listen to that, because every time my wife or kids get in the truck, it's like fantasy sports talk. My daughter's so annoyed. She goes, "Daddy, I don't know what they're saying." I said, "Just listen, you'll figure it out."
Okay, you'll figure it out. Daddy's got to win. Daddy's got to set a lineup this week. All right, so you can go to school.
Yeah, I got to figure out what they're thinking on these, betting lines, so that way I can make good prop bets.
Hey, speaking of props.
Oh, I see what you did there. I like it. They call that a segue
in the industry.
See, you're not the only one who can sneak that stuff in.
All right. Hey, Super Bowl props. I gotta be honest. This is one of my favorite things about the Super Bowl is the prop bets. Now, I don't actually put real money on these. I think it's just fun to get bragging rights on.
Do the whole disclaimer. It's all for entertainment.
For entertainment purposes. Blah blah blah. And I really don't put money on these. I can't, but I don't put money on these. But it is fun to have some bragging rights, or even just games within the game to track, right? Like that's the fun part about prop bets. And Derek, you've got a couple of good ones here to lead us off.
I felt pretty good about some of these. So one of them was, which will be quicker, the national anthem or the fastest scoring drive in the game?
Now, a scoring drive includes field goals, correct?
Correct. Yeah, any scoring drive.
Any drive that ends in points. Okay.
Yeah. So that really just kind of depends on how fast you think the national anthem is going to be, and will there be one of those in there. And Alex and I have got some differing viewpoints on one of his prop bets that comes up here later that concerns the timing of the old national anthem there. But I'm kind of leaning on the fact that we're going to see a faster scoring drive this year.
I agree with you. I think that the scoring drive will be faster than the length of the national anthem.
Well, it's definitely not happening because I'm partnering with you guys and think it's a scoring drive as well. So the fact that all three of us are so determined on this, that tells you the national anthem might be the way to go.
I just think, how easy it is for a team to, score a field goal at the end of a half, right?
Right. Especially with the two offenses that we see here and how they can just kind of march down the field rather quickly. So
indoor kicking.
And indoor kicking is right. All righty. So next one, will there be an octopus? So I really like this one from the simple standpoint that I put that on the sheet and immediately got
bombarded with questions.
Yeah. What's the octopus? Yeah. So for everybody out there that doesn't know, the octopus is when a player scores a touchdown and a 2-point conversion on the same trip, on the same drive. Do they score 8 points on the same drive there? And there's some interesting lines out there for it. Like plus 1,400, plus 1,500, some of those types of things out there. So while I put it there, I don't know that we're going to see a 2-point conversion attempted in this one. So I'm going to go with no.
That's a good prop too. I will also go with no. I don't think that there will be an octopus. Do we have any history on the last time an octopus A ever happened or B happened in a Super Bowl?
Not offhand. I'm sure we can look that up.
I don't know. I can't think of it. I don't actually remember the last time a 2-point try was. I'm sure it's happened more recent than I know. But
yeah, well, I'm going to say no for the simple fact that when I read that, I instantly thought of the Detroit Red Wings. And I was thinking,
too.
What the hell do they have to do with the Super Bowl? I was not thinking about what Derek was talking about. So, no, I am not going to try and speak to that when I don't know the answer to your question, Alex. And quite frankly, I was thinking hockey. I was not thinking when I read this. So, no.
While
Derek continues to do that research on that.
Zay Flowers apparently did it in a game there with the Rams and the Ravens. Game? Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Nico Collins did it earlier this year. Looks like Travis Etienne, David Montgomery.
Oh, so it does happen.
It does happen. So just doesn't seem to happen that frequently.
Yeah. So we're all no.
Yes, I'll know.
All right. Your last one here, Derek.
All right, and then the last one, actually there's two here.
Oh, sorry, there is.
But going along with the Taylor Swift references there, had to sneak some more of those in here. A couple of album titles here with 22. Will there be 22 or more points scored in any quarter? I think we see either the third or fourth quarter get a little funky here, a little crazy, and we see 22 or more points in one of those two quarters.
I do not think that we will see 22 points in any one quarter.
I do think we'll see 22 points in any one quarter.
All right,
But I'm not telling you which one because it ties into what one of my props was, and I'm giving you the answer here in a minute.
All right. So remind me when we get there, because that was going to be my follow up. There is name the quarter, but we'll wait until we get to your prop there.
You can't do that because my prop says that.
All righty, I like it. The other one that I had for all of the Swifties out there was 15. Will Patrick Mahomes score 15, or will he have 15 or more rushing yards and 215 and more passing yards? I think we see that that is a yes. I think we do see Patrick Mahomes record 215 through the air and at least 15 yards on the ground.
I'm going to go with no on this one. And I think it's the 15 on the ground that is going to be the issue.
I think we see an old man shuffle for like 16 yards at one point in this thing.
Cosign. I'm going to say he does it.
All right, fine. Okay, here's a few that I really liked. And I have kind of the odds that I saw with them too. Will the first play from scrimmage result in a first down?
No.
I'm going yes at plus 340.
Although at that point, I saw some of the deals. Will the first play of the game be a safety, a defensive touchdown on either side? And the odds on those were so juicy that almost half tempted just to put $1 down and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's
$2 a piece.
And it happened not 10 years ago where the first play was a safety. All right, next was total yards gained on the first play, over under 3.5.
Over.
I'm going to go with over too.
Yeah, I like the over on that one too. But an incompletion really wrecks that one. Okay, will there be a touchdown from the 1 yard line?
And a cloud of dust kind of ruin it too, so it really doesn't matter.
Will there be a touchdown from the 1 yard line?
No.
Yes.
Oh, I'm gonna go with no as well. I think, and that's at plus 138. I don't remember what yes was, but
all right,
plus 138.
Alex, call your shot on shortest touchdown.
7 yards.
Okay, I'm going to go with 2.5 or 3 yards. I think we've seen Isaiah Pacheco touchdown second quarter from about 3 yards out.
That's fair.
I'm going to call him that shot. We'll see how close that.
All right, Deebo Samuel rush yards over under 16.5.
Under.
Great line, by the way.
Under.
Fantastic line. It's not my line, but I like the I forgot to put down what that was. I like the over. Give me the over on that one. I'll root for Deebo Samuel. There's a bunch of different anytime touchdown scores. I like all those. I'm going to take I found Rashee Rice anytime touchdown scorer for plus 130. I like that one a lot. So
I like that. I like that one as well. I'd take money on that.
I'm going with no. Four receptions, 37 yards.
No touchdown.
And 1 touchdown. You're missing the key component, Derek. Get on the wagon.
We need a Rashee Rice touchdown is what we need. Okay. I also, I guess, Kevin, let's go to yours. And then we'll come back to MVP and Super Bowl. Or not Super Bowl. Star Spangled Banner.
All right. So one of my favorites. What color is the Gatorade?
I hate this one. I hate this one so much.
This is interesting because there's a whole lot of options out there. Blue is certainly one of the most popular colors. With it being 3 out of the last 5 years, the winning color has been blue. Definitely some orange and some purple favorites out there, but I think I'm going to go with. I'm just going to ride the blue. I'm going to go that route.
That's where I'm going to. Give me blue.
I'm going yellow.
Oh. Okay.
Orange is a very close second for me. I do not think it's going to be blue. I think it's orange. I think it's yellow first. If I were hedging bets, I'd put a second one in on yellow.
Although the last 2 times that Andy Reid's been doused, it was purple and orange. So, interesting to see. I don't think that we'll see one of those colors be used again. So I'm going with the blue. Final answer.
Fair enough. All right. And then the one that ties in with Derek's, what is the highest scoring quarter of the Super Bowl?
I like third quarter.
I think this game's gonna get a little drunk in the fourth.
I'm going second quarter. Both these teams throughout the playoffs have made really, really good halftime adjustments. And what they've been able to do to shut down some pretty high power offenses, i.e. Ravens and Lions. So I think the second half points are going to be a little bit harder to come by. I think, however, in the second is where we see us getting over 22 points in a quarter. And it will be the highest scoring quarter of said Super Bowl.
Usually those even number quarters are typically higher scoring because, well, it doesn't start with a kickoff. It doesn't have to start with a kickoff, right? Whereas first and third does. So there's a better chance of scoring all those points because you can start the quarter off in plus territory.
No.
So
And Isaiah Pacheco is going to get a touchdown in the second quarter of about 3 yards.
One, dang it. All right. And then the third one that I put on, the one I really like, Mahomes over 1.5 touchdown passes. Like, it is the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think that you find a way, Rashee Rice being one of them. I think Travis Kelce, possibly Pacheco, possibly, kind of an unsung hero. Maybe MVS gets behind the defense again for the third straight game, and this time falls in for 6.
How much do you think that the Chiefs are going to try and push the Kelce to, right? Like he's not far behind being the all-time leader in touchdowns in the playoffs, yards in the playoffs. Like, how much do you think we really see him factored into this game plan and really trying to push the ball through him and run the offense that way?
I don't see Mahomes forcing it unless he absolutely has to, right? And I'm thinking like the Tampa Bay year where he was just completely under fire. But I think he's just an active part, right? He is a key component of the success of the Kansas City Chiefs. So he's going to see, I think he'll see 9 targets. I think he comes down with 6 or 7 receptions, and I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 88 yards.
All right.
Yeah.
I like it.
No, I don't think he's certainly not going to be ignored by Patrick Mahomes. And they just seem to be able to find themselves. Like the two just seem to find each other. So, yeah. So Kevin, with your Mahomes prediction that there's potentially 3, maybe 4 touchdown passes.
I don't know about 3 or 4. I think it's over 1.5, right? Like
right.
I think one's going to Rice, and I think you could toss
and then
around
one's
different
going to
ideas.
Somebody else.
Yeah, like Kelsey's the obvious answer, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see, this is the weird game, right? Like player that you weren't really thinking about, and their numbers called, and they just, pull the David Tyree, right? Like they make the
play
in this game.
So who's able to shake it off?
Stop this. All right. So who then is your Super Bowl MVP?
Mahomes, right? Shortest odds, right? At plus 230, I think they are.
Oh, man, it's down plus 140 now. 140 is the best.
What side are you looking on?
FanDuel.
Hold on.
Right. I mean, I don't know that anybody's got enough of a love story with Mahomes that they're going to get all of those touchdowns going their way.
You can stop whenever you'd like now.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. 135, 140. Alex, you're right. 230
was
145. Purdy.
Yeah. So you like Mahomes?
I like Mahomes.
Derek?
I'm going to go with the Kelce. And yeah, there's some weird things that quite frankly you could build up some interesting props along the way. So I'm going to go that route.
Okay. I like Rashee Rice, and you can get him at like plus 8,000 on BetMGM right now. I think he goes if he has a big game, like it's gonna be hard to ignore him. The problem is if he has a big game, that means Patrick Mahomes also had a big game, and that's going to be really difficult.
Yeah, if he goes 9 for 145 and 2 touchdowns, I mean, Mahomes is going to have to do like zero else.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs still win
Yeah.
for that to happen. Like, there's a reason this is plus 8,000. Now, it's worth it, it's worth $5. I don't know what the hell. Like,
Yeah, right.
it pays out, but yeah, there's a really tough script that needs to be followed for Rice to be able to do that.
I mean, that's an interesting Super Bowl MVP stat line of 4 for 37, but that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
All right.
Listen,
okay,
it's the only 37 yards in the game, and they win. Like, how about that?
There you go.
Last prop here, which I've found out you can't actually bet on in the U.S., and that is the length of the national anthem. You're not allowed to bet on it, as I'm reading here.
Why?
I don't know. I'm not sure why, but you're not allowed to bet on it in the U.S. You
That's
can,
what we do
however,
in the U.S. Like, we gamble on everything.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
you can bet on it in Canada. So for our friends north of the border that are listening, here's our thinking. And Derek and I have done some deep diving here. The national anthem singer this year is Reba McEntire. She's sung the national anthem at plenty of big events before. It opened up at 84 and a half seconds, 1 minute, 24 and a half seconds. It has since moved, and now you can find it for 90 and a half seconds. You might see it at 86 and a half seconds. But 90 and a half is generally the time that you're going to see there. So 1 minute, 30 and a half seconds. Derek, do you want to give your reason for what you're picking?
You go ahead, and then I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Okay. So this, and I got to give a shout out here to Jason Logan on covers.com. He's put together a fantastic article here. So according to his research, the average anthem song has been 115.4 seconds, so almost pushing 2 minutes. That's been the average since 2000. Country singers, going back to 1991, country singers have produced an average anthem length of 112 and a half seconds. So for those reasons, I'm taking the over at 90 and a half. Reba is going to soak this bad boy up. So give me the over at 90 and a half.
I mean, I could see that, right? Like 90 seconds, that is quick. One of the last times that we've seen a national anthem sung at 90 seconds was Billy Joel when he did it, right? Like, that was a while ago. Most of these anthems are coming in well beyond that. However, Reba tends to be a quick singer of the national anthem, and it has clocked that in, doing big events as well at about 83 seconds prior to this. So I think that we see Reba get through this one. I think it's going to be close. That line of 90 is really, really close there, but I think that we see her come in just under this one, which kind of leads back to which one do you think is going to be quicker, the national anthem or the quickest drive? So I'm thinking that we even see a drive quicker than, a scoring drive quicker than about 1 minute, 20 seconds in this game.
90 and a half, Kevin. How long is Reba singing for?
I want to take the over. I do. Like, it just seems fast, right? Like, I want to take the over. But I've watched Reba do the national anthem before, and she does not add a whole lot of her own flair, right? Like, she definitely has the Reba twang that everyone who follows her, knows and loves. But she stays pretty true to the original song, right? There's not necessarily a whole lot of ad-libbing or extending of notes that Reba does. So I think I think it's just under. Like, I mean, I think would you say 82 was her fastest?
Like 83 was the quickest.
83 was her fastest. It opened at 84. At 84 and a half, I think I take the over. Like, that's how hairline this is. At 84.5 where it opened, I think I take the over. At 90.5, I'm going to play the under for the sake of the show, but I'm not going to Canada to bet this. Like, I don't have any interest in searching out the site and paying them $100 to put down $2 on this and then figure out what I'm going to spend the rest of my $98 on. Like, I'm not doing this. So I'm going to say under for the sake of the show.
Again, for entertainment purposes.
For entertainment purposes only.
Yada. If you do have a problem, 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hey, all right. So there's one more that we probably need to talk about, and that's the spread and the total. I'm seeing a spread of San Francisco -1.5. I am seeing an over/under total of 47.5. Who wants to lead us off? I can if you want me to. Go ahead.
Kansas City.
KC plus the 1.5.
Plus the 1.5. So I've liked this since it opened at +1. You could get it at +2, even +2.5 in some places, even as earlier as of today, right? If they got on Tuesday morning, you would have had, an extra point. So regardless, I think Kansas City wins this game. So give me plus money. I will absolutely take it. 47.5. I am going to say the under because the first half of games, San Francisco has not looked incredibly great. And the second half of games, the Chiefs have made adjustments to not let teams be great. So I think all that kind of tallies up and under. So the second quarter is going to have most of the scoring in this game, guys. So after halftime, it's going to be, short drives, a lot of punts, maybe a field goal or two. But second quarter is where the action is, at least according to me, because I think that's the highest scoring quarter, over 22 points as we rehash that. But for this game, Kansas City and the under. Spags has something for Brock Purdy. If I could get plus odds, if I can get plus odds on 1.5 interceptions, I'd totally take it.
All right, Derek.
The fact that that Kansas City's line is a little bit banged up, and we've seen the recipe for disaster with the Chiefs in the big game before. If you can get to Mahomes and put some pressure on him and all of that. But I do think that we see some points in this one. I am going to go just over. I'm going to call the shot on 25-23. A weird scoring.
My Super Bowl squares don't like that number, Derek. So you need to pick a
25-23, and I'm going to take the Niners to get revenge on the on this one. No deja vu. There you go. Another Taylor Swift reference for you.
All right.
I can't with you tonight. I just can't.
I think history repeats itself from 4 years ago, and Kansas City wins this thing. I hope this is the only thing that repeats itself from 4 years ago.
Amen.
Yes.
So let's go with Kansas City plus 1.5. Give me the over.
So 2 overs, 2 KCs, and that's where we're at. That's where we're at on the consensus there.
Yep.
So.
Oh boy.
Right.
Nothing left but to tee it up. And this is it. It's it for the season.
Yep.
True. Very true. But the good news is it's not the very end for the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. We'll be going live all off season long, Tuesday nights, 11 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be getting into those player breakdowns, getting into rookie profiles, getting all of everybody ready, set to go here for dynasty drafts coming up, the NFL draft coming up, our live stream spectacular on the draft night there, as well as all those player profile videos. So should be a lot of fun. Make sure you're tuning in. Final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners.
Favorite Super Bowl snack?
I'm a sucker for nachos, dude.
Man, yeah.
I really just am. Like the finger food's great, and doing little sliders or, chips and queso or what. Like I want, ground beef. Like I'm just a sucker for nachos during the Super Bowl. Wings are good.
Yeah.
Nachos to me are better.
Yeah. Nachos are that's a very solid choice. I like a good dip. Good. Not so much
I
like
do
a
too.
buffalo chicken.
Where's my Copenhagen? I love a good dip.
Like a buffalo chicken dip or just some other good dips. I think that's the best part about the Super Bowl is the fun dips that you can have with your chips and dips.
Alex, I like where you're going with that. Dips are really good, and you know what dips are amazing on is wings.
Yeah.
Yep. I parlayed that right into wings. So that's where I'm gonna end there is with wings.
Well, I hope everybody has a very happy, safe Super Bowl watching, and hopefully that nobody has the flu come Super Bowl Monday.
Right. No, I mean, cosign. Enjoy the game. It's the last one of the season. It should be a pretty tightly contested game, back and forth. We're hoping at least back and forth, right? But I don't see either team being able to necessarily run away with this one. So it should be pretty entertaining. Hopefully we get some halfway decent commercials for us to talk about, right? Like that's
strong start. That Paramount commercial was fantastic. That's a
Dude,
strong
that Paramount
start.
commercial. Yeah, Paramount they have taken an early lead, and it's going to take a pretty beefy shot from someone to take down Paramount because that commercial
pretty strong commercial to start.
Really good.
That touches on a lot of different things. Good nostalgia, good recency. There's a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, I agree. That one was well done. So kudos to Paramount. But it's going to take a Herculean effort, I think, to kind of usurp that one because of how it did touch, especially with our generation, right? With our demographic, our generation, where we know both sides of that so well. It's going to be really tough for someone to come through and beat that. So unless Budweiser decides to bring the frogs back, like I don't see how anyone's beating this.
Oh, yep. All righty. Well, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for tuning in, guys. You can catch us on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at Good Old Boys FF. And, of course, the best place to support the show, head over to YouTube, youtube.com/@GoodOldBoysFF. Click that subscribe button. Ring the bell. We'll be seeing y'all around. I'm Derek. He's Kevin. He's Alex. Have a good one. Be safe.